So do you want me to hey Daniel, did you want me to wait till we got to the slide about recording?
For the recording. Hi. For the
Yeah.
recording to start.
Yeah.
It's all good. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. All right, I figure wait a couple minutes and then we can get started. And I was given the task to choose something that is very near and dear to my heart to talk about, and that is support because I seem to have a lot of emergencies in my life. So apologize if you've all been through something like this, but just want to share some tips that I've learned. All right, well, I'll just go ahead and get going. I know we have a couple of housekeeping slides that we always do anyway. So this is the first kickoff of the virtual Eastern group for Adobe Commerce. My name's Chris. I'll get to that here in a minute. Never done this before, so I'll hope I don't have a bunch of technical challenges. So as we always go over the ground rules, no self-promoting, pitching of any kind, don't contact people outside of the user group without their consent. And if someone shares one of their use cases here, don't share that without their consent. And then everyone knows that we're being recorded, so this will end up on the Adobe user group YouTube page. And so if you don't want to be recorded, you can watch it later. Always an important reminder to stay up to date with what's going on with the chapter, so make sure you join. Otherwise, you won't receive any notifications about what's going on. And then here's a fun one. So if you guys want to fill out one of these surveys for Adobe Commerce, you can get a $25 gift card. And then, of course, always a reminder, standing out against your competition to get some certifications from Adobe available in their portal. So you might want to see if any of those appeal to you for your specific case. And then here's another announcement. The 2026 Adobe Experience Maker Awards are now open. I don't know much about them. I have barely even read much about it yet, but the submissions close October 17th. So if you are in mind to apply for it, go ahead. All right, so this is what I chose to talk about, the best way to use Adobe support. So my name is Chris Seidel. I'm the IT and Marketing Director for Coker Group. We have several business units, Coker Tire in Tennessee, Corrado Central in Michigan, and I'm here in beautiful Richmond, Virginia, and with Zip Products. All right, so why does Adobe support matters? Well, what happens when things go wrong, right? So the first rule is don't panic. Adobe support is more than just a safety net. It's a critical part of getting the most out of Adobe Commerce. So you can minimize downtime with faster issue resolution, have direct access to Adobe Commerce experts, and of course, protect your investment in Adobe Commerce and ensure a smooth and reliable customer experience because that's really the most impactful thing when something bad happens. So the types of support that are available, you all may be aware, the standard support, which is what we get out of the box, the premier support, which is paid, and then the elite enterprise support, which is also paid, which is a higher level of service. And then, of course, what we always do here is our self-service resources, any documentation, forums that we look through a knowledge base. We try to find an answer to the question that we're trying to resolve. All right, so I was just going to talk about how to open an effective support ticket. So if your website's experiencing an attack, an outage, an infrastructure issue, it's best to open a ticket as quickly as possible. And here's some guidelines to what I like to do. Replicate the steps, what's clear on the instructions to be able to reproduce the issue on the ticket. Provide any error logs if that's applicable to your situation. Screenshots of what you're seeing. Pictures are usually worth 1,000 words, right? Like I've had a lot of tickets, and the more screenshots I've included, the faster the resolution has become. Frequency of the issue, is this one time? Is it recurring? Is it affecting all users? Is it spotty? What have you learned so far about it? What is the expected behavior versus what is actually happening? That's important to know too. Always include any kind of recent deployments, patches, changes that might actually be causing the issue when you're trying to figure out what it might be. We'll get to that in a minute too. They might not always be able to help you with that, but they might be able to point you in the right direction. And then impact to business. So that's really the most important part, is if it is a serious critical situation, is to make sure they know that you are impacting the business and losing revenue and affecting customers, opposed to just a minor bug or something in the admin that doesn't seem to be working correctly. So the best practices I like to use for opening a support ticket is just to make sure you're clear and concise. The faster that the Adobe engineers understand the issue, the quicker the resolution usually is. One thing that's been a constant refrain of mine is make sure you just put one issue per ticket. I know sometimes there can be several things happening all at once, and it's easy to put it all in one ticket, but for Adobe to make sure that that's distributed to the correct support team, we really need to focus on one issue per ticket so it gets to the right people. And then I always prioritize the issue, classify what is urgent versus like an enhancement, like we talked about previously. If it's impacting business, then that is the most urgent thing possible. And use the appropriate severity levels in the ticket, right? So if it is critical, make sure it's critical. If it's just something they need to look at soon, just mark the ticket appropriately. Marking everything critical is not going to help you solve the ticket any faster. And then you always track the tickets through the portal, making sure if there's any updates or anything. And then I always like to say, just be patient until you cannot be patient anymore. Adobe is going to be looking into the issue, and if you haven't received a follow-up on something critical in 30 minutes, I would always, submit a ticket again and see what's going on with the situation. So if it's coming to that point now, right, how do you escalate a ticket? Customers can't check out. Your boss is asking you every 5 minutes what's going on with the website. So might need to escalate the ticket. So you can now do it in the Adobe support portal, so you can actually self-escalate the ticket. I haven't had too much success with that. I always choose the second one, where I try to reach out to my CSM if they are available. They're your friend, get to know them. I've been lucky enough to have the same one for about 3 years, and now I'm getting a new one, but he was trained by the same person. So what I've learned is they usually have contacts inside the organization if they've done a good job curating relationships, and they usually have some other resources that they can tap if you're in a real pinch. Lastly, the P1 support line for customer service for Adobe. You can always call that, especially if it's like after hours, because it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I have only had to call it in 2 situations, so I try not to ever. Usually, getting in contact with your customer service agent and following the ticket protocol seems to work just fine. But if there's some emergency going on in the middle of the night, then definitely use the number. One of the things I always recommend when we've encountered larger issues is just to make sure you document what's going on, and you can send that all over to Adobe. Usually after a ticket is closed, they'll send a, how'd we do statement on that. So I either reply to that and send them any documentation that we think is relevant to the issue, or of course, if we don't get a ticket like that, just letting them know on the ticket, like, hey, this wasn't handled very well, I want to talk to somebody, or providing them with documentation about what happened, because most likely they will actually use that in the future. I know we've had some situations here where we've actually provided documentation to them where they were like, all right, we're going to use that in the future if we have a case just like this. Once it's resolved, you want to mark the ticket as resolved. They'll just keep emailing you until you tell them it's resolved. So here's some common mistakes, right, that I've learned over the years to avoid. So making big tickets is not helpful. Just like the site is broken and no information. Kind of went over that before, but I've had several, junior account people work with me, and they just didn't understand that they have to actually provide as much detail as possible. So make sure you include screenshots, reproduction steps, any use cases that's specific to your environment or logs if applicable. Again, don't mark everything critical. They're just not going to respond to that. Including as many issues in the ticket is not the way to do it. Make sure it's just one issue per ticket, so they can get it resolved the best way. And then never wait like for significant downtime before you start, contacting them. Don't do that. As soon as something's gone awry and you figure out that your internal development team or the external development team can't handle it, or it's an infrastructure issue, definitely open that ticket as soon as possible because it'll help get the issue resolved more quickly. So some real world examples. I was just going to talk for a minute about some of mine. So we were on-prem originally before we joined with our larger parent company, and we took our entire environment and migrated it to a empty development Adobe Cloud cluster. And we were only down for about 3 hours. The biggest challenge came with the Fastly configuration on the Adobe side. So those tickets, of course, they're always pre-planned. I think the rule of thumb is about 72 hours ahead of time. Make sure that Adobe knows about it. We started our ticket like a week before, made sure Adobe had all the available resources actually on the call with us when we started the migration around 1 o'clock in the morning. And then, yeah, the Fastly team is really the whole thing that held us up more than anything else, is getting the DNS to resolve to the right areas. So that was like more of a pre-planned ticket. Then you have your emergency kind of tickets, and I actually went through this at the beginning of the month, and I've never had to do it before. But we encountered a massive database failure, and we actually had to restore from backup. So we had to open up a ticket with Adobe, immediately escalated it through every possible area. They were able to mount a backup that was taken about 40 minutes prior. So we have an ERP system that Adobe sends the orders to. So we had about 40 minutes worth of orders that had came over that were never going to be back in Adobe or Magento because those orders were then lost. We could recreate them, of course, but once we dug into it, a lot of them are guest orders, and it didn't matter. We'd already captured the funds and all the order information in the ERP, but that took about 4 hours between when we went down, getting the backup from Adobe, and then mounting it and starting to redeploy it all again. And once that was done, we were back up and running again. And to be honest, the Adobe moved as fast as they possibly do. We were very impressed with the amount of time that took. Uh, Another really common thing is the bot attacks or denial of service. We seem to be going through those more often. So we, make sure that you're doing your monthly health checks, doing your, strategy sessions with your CSM, making sure that you're not missing anything that preemptively. But then these things just do happen. Like right now, we've been under attack from Singapore, and we've had to make some different Fastly configurations. So we still have a ticket open right now that the Adobe team has been responding pretty much daily, giving us some more advice because things keep slipping through. Conflicting third-party code. So that's something where you may have installed a module or deployed something that your developers have written, and it's blowing up and interfering with something else with Adobe. And if you're trying to figure out what exactly it is, you can open a ticket. Adobe will be very quick to point out that, hey, this is not our responsibility because of our shared responsibility agreement. This third-party code is on your development team to deal with and resolve. They might point you in the right direction and tell you where to look, but they're not going to do anything to help. So it is helpful, though, if they can identify, like, hey, this is where we think the issue is coming from, and then we can turn around and work on it on our side. So then the key takeaways, I think, is just make sure your tickets are clear and concise. You'll get a faster resolution that way. Use the right level of support, critical, or not, for your needs. Be proactive in your health checks on your system and make sure everything's running correctly, not just reactive when emergency happens. Um, Leveraging this community, right? Something Danielle and I talked about recently is, using the Slack channel. If you guys have a question about something or run into an issue, it's likely that somebody else has had something similar. So to go ahead and feel free to throw the question out there, and I think some people have already connected that way. Make sure you escalate your critical tickets through the right channels, and remember your CSM or TAM can help you with additional resources if they've been there long enough and have curated some good resources internally. And lastly, of course, I always say don't panic because it just doesn't help anything. And it doesn't help when your boss is breathing down your neck asking you what's going on. But if you just stay steady and calm and keep going through it, eventually everything will get resolved. So that's really it. I wanted to thank everybody for coming to this. This is what I chose to talk about. I didn't know if anybody had any questions. If you want to have a group therapy session about any other experiences that you've had that have been quite overwhelming, or if you guys had any suggestions about any topic you want to talk about next time.
Thanks, Chris. I can just add your tip about looping in your CSM has been hugely helpful for us. I'm not really sure what like customer tiers look like at Adobe, but we were able to loop in our CSM both for some urgent tickets that we had open that were just not kind of getting anywhere. He was able to get them escalated and get a response like within an hour after my team waiting like 2 weeks for that. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
But they were also able to loop in their technical advisory team to give us full site audit and some development work just based on issues that we were having. So that's been really, really helpful and a great resource. Highly recommended for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I have my rep's phone number, so I'm texting them immediately. Yeah, they've done a really good job with that, and I don't know. It depends on how everything goes, but I don't know if you've experienced it, but I had some reps previously, and they just were not of the same level. And then I got a really good one for like 3 years, and then he got promoted, and so the guy I'm working with now was trained by him, so he's doing really well. We've handled a couple of different situations since he's been here, but I can't suggest more. Make sure you loop them in because, like I said, if they've been good in the Adobe ecosystem, they've definitely curated some other relationships on different teams, and they can reach out to somebody directly and help you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Actually, almost exactly the same experience here. Do you have Vince now?
Yeah, we have Vince
from Mitchell.
From
Mitchell is awesome.
Yeah,
yes. Okay.
Yeah,
very cool. Good folks.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Vince is doing a good job. I'm actually highly impressed. So.
Me too. Awesome.
So that's it. I think I'm looking through some of the people on this call. Michelle is on here, who I know from Corvette Central. So she is about to join the Adobe whole deal here. So they just had their contract signed the other day. So she's going to get to experience all the same things we are. Hey, Brett, you're raising your hand.
Yeah. So have you ever had, or what has your experience been when dealing with a relatively complex issue, and have you worked it in parallel with Adobe Commerce or Adobe's support team to either come to resolution or find out what the issue is or fix the problem? And have you found something that works better? Is it better to let them do it on their own? Is it better to work with them? Is it a constant stream of updates as you find updates, putting it in a ticket? What works best there?
Yeah, my experience has been just that. Usually it's either two schools, right? It's either like something that's on Adobe's like infrastructure team and they have to fix it, or it has to do with Fastly, and they are the ones that have to investigate it and then turn around and be like, okay, we're gonna do something to resolve the issue. Most of the time, if you're dealing with something like really complicated, like in our instance, right, we have 3 different credit card processors, 3 different tax programs, 3 different ERPs, so a multi-store environment. So we run into complicated issues all the time. But opening that ticket with Adobe and starting to work alongside with them, they'll be able to kind of point you in the right direction, and they're quick to remind you like, hey, this isn't our responsibility, but you might want to look here because here's what we found, during our research. And then that helps our developers jump in and be like, okay, so now we're seeing what you're seeing. So it does help to work like side by side with them, but there is that walled off area where they're at some point they're just going to be like, well, it's not our responsibility to take care of it. Like you guys got to figure it out. But it has never happened to me in a way in which they're just like, hey, we're not going to help you at all. They just keep trying to point you like in the right direction, and we just keep updating the ticket. Well, like, here's what we found. Do you see anything else? And it's good to just keep that interaction up, because a lot of the times they'll read the ticket, right, but then they won't really kind of get the whole thing, and they'll reply with like a knowledge base link, and be like, here, read about this, and we're like, we've already done that, and so just keeping them involved in it as they find as you find everything during your investigation, I think is very helpful.
Yeah, and I can add to that too. I think a lot of times it all comes down to like your environment and how much custom stuff that you have in it, and depending on how long you've been at your organization, like I'm always uncovering new custom stuff where it's like, oh wow, okay, that one native functionality thing that we thought would fix this actually breaks like these 3 custom things that were put in place in 2019.
Yep.
And just like uncovering that stuff. And I think Adobe Support is really good about saying, hey, here's what's supposed to happen. Like this is the native behavior, and they can help verify that of like, oh, okay, so if we do this is what the expected behavior. That means that something custom is looking at this attribute or something like that. But yeah, great to work with them as well. But a lot of it, it's just so configurable and so customizable. That's where you run into a lot of issues.
Yeah, that's always been one of my things when we talk to other business owners and they think they're on BigCommerce or whatever they're on, and they're thinking about moving to Magento. I always tell them, like, it's a blank canvas, right? And like, anything you can think about doing, you can do. It just depends if you have the right development team and how you want to execute it. But yeah, I mean, you're exactly correct. They'll turn around and help you identify like, this is way too custom, or it's outside of the box of our scope, and you guys are gonna have to figure it out. So. But I just know from our past experience, it can be, so when we were on prem, right, we had a hosting environment that was dedicated to us, and they were really good about like helping us and being responsive and everything. And then when we moved to the Adobe Cloud, it became a bit more cumbersome, right, to submit all these tickets and about everything. And then of course you include one other thing in there that doesn't have relationship to the other one, they always kind of kick it back at you. Another suggestion I didn't think I touched on in there too, if you are experiencing like multiple issues and do have a couple different tickets open, but they're related, another good idea too is to reference the other ticket numbers if they're related to the same thing, so that engineer that's currently working on it can go read the other one, and he might think like, oh, okay, now I get it. Like there's something else going on that might be related to what I'm working on. But yeah, but there's never been, I mean, I just don't, unless you're paying for some level of support that I'm not really like aware of, there's not really a world where they will just jump in and like, work on your custom code for you or anything like that. So.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, Chris, myself, Kamlesh, and I also faced the similar issues while ticketing that supporting. Only the thing is that you have to give the real use case, all the scenarios to them to understand what's the exact problem. Then Adobe supporting will provide you the better solutions. If you are giving only that some small brief on the issues like site broken, they won't understand what's happening over there. Or you are not giving that which plugin you are using and asking the questions, they also won't understand. Okay, because that is from third party plugin, the problem occurs. So we have to give whole scenarios, detail level understanding, and then only Adobe support will definitely help us to resolve the issue in quickly time. Otherwise, the iterations will be going on in the email and chat, and then it will take long time to fix.
Yeah.
Yes. Another thing, Chris, that right now we have some new products already launched from the Adobe, and see pupils are seeing those that products. They are interested on that, like SEO, ACCS,
Mhm.
and that ADS platforms. Okay, so can we put those queries on the same Slack channel, or we do have separate channels for that? To get the support of this new products.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Another thing that I am just doing certain things on cloud service that AMSCS. Okay. I faced problems over there, but I didn't get any channel to reach out to Adobe support team for that. Any channels like Slack or something. So do we have anything on that? Because nowadays people are doing some research on the new products and how they can make it compatible with their applications. So do we have any suggestion on that part from the Adobe?
Okay. Yeah, I know that I'm just barely cracked the surface on some of that new stuff. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they're still building out some of the documentation on it. But as far as I know, there isn't any Slack channel or anything like that. It's
yeah.
like you got to talk to your CSM, and then if you have an actual issue, you can raise a support ticket. But everything else is just going to be knowledge base and forums.
Yeah, that's all I'm aware of also, and I've been getting all my
So
information.
there's actually a community Slack channel with all the Magento developers other from outside of Magento, and there are also some Adobe employees who sometimes log into that channel to
Oh,
talk
okay.
with users. They may not necessarily know customer support team or uh, are part of the team, but they could sometimes they will look at your questions and then analyze what could cause the issue and point you to the right direction, or even nudge the customer service people to, or give them a hand and get back to you.
yeah. There is one office hour meetings going on every Tuesday. I also participate in EPIC and EMU, American at evening. So we are discussing few questions that is come across from the other teams who is doing some experiments, and we are discussing how we can solve it. But we don't have any direct Slack channels where we can put the questions, or we can have any community which will discuss on those topics in regular basis. So the thing is that if certain developers or team stuck at some points, and it take 1 week time to resolve that problem, it's not a good for new products. Okay, we will have to give more support on the new products. That's what my understanding.
Great. All right. Well, yeah. I guess really I was trying to figure out. I know there were some Q&A questions that went about what other people want to hear about next time, or what can we all do to kind of support each other. So, my email's on the stack. I know you know how to reach out to Danielle if anybody has any suggestions about what, or just use the Slack channel. Anybody wants to have some suggestions about what we all want to meet about next. I literally chose this topic because we've never had to restore from backup. That was insane. And I thought, and it was like everyone was melting down everywhere. And I was like, okay, well, just stay
Yeah, that's
calm and
crazy.
it'll be fine. Just give it some time. So,
Did you guys identify the root cause of it?
not really. It was like a critical database error, and they were trying to figure out what exactly was wrong, and it just kept getting worse because we redeployed, and that made it worse. So
That's
yeah,
scary.
yeah,
Um,
it was bad.
we had a weird database thing happen with our staging environment about a year ago, and ended up having to basically hose it and just replace it with data from production. And
Uh-huh.
it's still like it's still not like 100%. Like we lost a bunch of images and just weird stuff here and there. But yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. And of course, you know, you for in our situation, it wasn't just one. It was 3 sites that were down at the same time, so everyone was like
Nightmare.
panicking everywhere, and yeah, so
Actually, that we are using still the RDBMS, which is old platform to generate the database. So we have changed the Magento 1 to Magento 2, but we didn't change anything on a database side. So I think team have to check how they can separate the database from the applications in a proper way.
all right. Well, that's it. I need to take up any more of y'all's time. I mean, that was kind of what I wanted to address today, and then yeah, I know there's some more Adobe stuff coming up here soon, and I don't know. I guess we'll figure out when we can all meet again. But yeah, let me know if y'all have any recommendations about something else. I do have some people around me here locally that I'm going to try to reach out to. I've just been really busy and try to grow the group a little bit more. And then, you know, look at doing an in-person event around the East Coast once we kind of get everything ramped up. But
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Chris, could you go back to the slide that has the QR code for the group in it? Because
yeah,
I got this link from I think Daniela's
okay.
message in the Slack, but I just want to make sure I like actually get into it. But yeah,
And
it's good to connect with all of you guys, and hopefully we can grow it and keep it going.
yeah, I think it's great. I mean, if we can all, you know, ask any questions about stuff, we all go through different things. What is that, Danielle? Do you know if this does this presentation get sent out too, or is it just posted on the YouTube page?
It can be both. We can send it out to the attendees, and it will also be posted on the YouTube page.
Okay, I guess yeah, we can put it in the Slack channel too. Okay,
Perfect.
all right, cool. Well, I have a big presentation that's due on Tuesday that I need to do, so I think I'm gonna do that unless anybody else has anything else.
Good to go. Thank you,
All right,
guys.
cool. Yeah, thanks everybody. Hope to see y'all again soon.
Thank you, Chris.
Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.